Zealand. Firstly though, I'll get a piece of Wrigley's extra strawberry flavoured chewing gum out of the pack. So, having a little bit of trouble there, it's kind of stuck. Oh, there we go, maybe this one, oh there we go. That one pops out a bit easier. And open up the wrapper to reveal a nice pink piece of gum. Pop that in my mouth. Okay. Now the first step is to draw a map of New Zealand. And New Zealand, there's a big sort of this is the North Island I'm drawing at the moment. And it sort of goes up like that. And back around at the Bay of Plenty. And sort of back a bit. In, out, and up to a point. And back around like that. It's probably a bit wider than I should have made it, but that's okay. So that's the North Island of New Zealand. And now the South Island. It's a bit of a shape like that, roughly. And I better remember to put on Stewart Island at the bottom. Otherwise people might put a comment in my comment section. Now, okay, so I'll make a heading. New Zealand. And put an underlined under the name New Zealand. New Zealand is in the South Pacific Ocean. Australia's over this side, the west side of New Zealand is Australia, and I think it's about a 4-hour flight from Sydney in Australia to Auckland in New Zealand. So, and now New Zealand is sort of 2 big islands, plus a lot of other little islands, and so I'll colour in the ocean around New Zealand. Just a quick colouring in, so it's this is called around here is called the Bay of Plenty. And round again like that. Get the idea, there's a lot of ocean around New Zealand, and this is the South Island. So I'll colour in the ocean around the South Island as well. Okay, and around Stewart Island there. And it's very green in New Zealand, it rains a lot. So a bit of snow in winter as well. So I'll colour in the island a nice green colour to finish it off. I'll do that fairly quickly. And then I'll get into some facts and figures about our friends from New Zealand. Ripping along a little bit of green on Stewart Island, or Stewart as I like to call it. Okay. Okay, there we go. There is New Zealand. just a little bit of the history of New Zealand first in around about 1300 AD, the year 1300 roughly. The Maori people, the initial original people, arrived in New Zealand. They must have rowed in boats from islands neighbouring, sort of, one of the neighbouring islands, but it'd be a good row. Places like, Samoa or Tonga or somewhere like that, Fiji even, they've rowed down and settled New Zealand. That was in 1300. And then, I think 1642, Abel Tasman was the first European, I think he was a Dutch sailor. He was the first one to set eyes on New Zealand. So, the capital city then is Wellington, and it's got a population of around 200,000 people. The biggest town on the South Island is Christchurch. That's got a population of around 370,000. And Auckland, over here, has a population of around 1.6 million people. So I'll put those populations underneath. 1.6 million for Auckland, 200k for Wellington, that's pop, and Christchurch 370,000 for Christchurch. There. So I'll just continue on with the history then of New Zealand. 1640 to 1300 was when the Maoris arrived. 1642 was when Abel Tasman spotted it, and then Captain Cook from England, I think it was 1769, he sailed round all the two islands and mapped the coast. Hopefully he did a better job than I have. And then what happened initially was that in 1788 Australia was first colonised by the British, and sometime after that they started settlements in New Zealand. I'm not sure of the exact date, but somebody might put that in the comments section. And the Maoris weren't too happy about that, and there was many skirmishes between the Maoris and the English, and now what else? Oh, that's right. So when Australia was the Federation of Australia was in 1901, and there was an offer to include New Zealand in the as part of one country of Australia, but they decided to go it alone, and then in 1907 they became a dominion, and then it wasn't until 1947 that they became an independent nation. I believe that's correct. And what else? Oh, so it's still a constitutional monarchy, just like Australia. So they've got the Queen of England is their head of state, but they've got their own government and self-governing. So the Queen of England is really just a figurehead for New Zealand. So with New Zealand being just across the ditch, as we say, across the ocean from Australia, then you're from Australia, you're pretty well free to work. Go over to New Zealand to work, and New Zealanders are fairly free just to come over to Australia and work. There's no really, I think only if you've got a criminal record, either way that they might ask you to leave, but otherwise you're free to come and go. So in Australia. There's a lot of people from New Zealand, and probably vice versa in New Zealand. There's a lot of people from Australia, and the New Zealand accent very similar to the Australian accent. I don't think I think only people from Australia and New Zealand probably can tell the difference. There's just a few sort of words and sounds that are pronounced differently. But apart from that, it's a very sort of a similar accent, and obviously the language, official language of New Zealand is English, and there's also the Maori language that they still use. It's even in their national anthem when you hear them at sporting events. They sing the English version, and they sing the Maori version, or vice versa. Okay, now what else is interesting about New Zealand? I'll just going on about the sporting events. Rugby union is probably their big, probably their national sport, I suppose. Maybe not, maybe it is. And have you ever watched them, the All Blacks, when they come over, or in New Zealand, or wherever they play, they always do the haka before the game, which is a Maori war dance, and it's very impressive, and I guess very imposing on the opposition. Okay, so I'll put in some more interesting features on the map. Down here on the South Island, you've got Mount Cook, which is around 3,700 metres tall. That's the tallest mountain in New Zealand, but there's a lot of mountains in that South Island that are a similar, or no, not similar, but over the 3,000 metre mark. So there's some tall mountains in the south. I better write Stewart Island down the bottom. And there's also an island up here, roughly, that is the Great Barrier Island. Australia has the Great Barrier Reef, and New Zealand has the Great Barrier Island. Bay of Plenty. Up here in the top of New Zealand, here is Mount Taranaki. And some of my ancestors who came to Australia went via New Zealand. They came out in the army, and they went over to Rangoon in Burma, and then they were here in Taranaki in New Zealand before eventually making their way to Australia. Queenstown down the bottom is Queenstown. Hopefully I've spelled all those words like Queenstown. Almost read Queensland. That'd be a bit of a mistake. So Queenstown is a popular tourist destination in New Zealand. There's lots of skiing and things around. I think it's around Queenstown and other places. And I should write that this is the North Island. And this is the South Island. I didn't record the population split, but the total population is 4.8 million people, so it's not terribly big. And the total area, I was just trying to see that on my crib notes, is 269,000 square kilometres, so it's a sort of a small population for a reasonably sized country. Tasman Sea south you go to Antarctica, and you go north, you get to places like, not exactly sure, but Fiji and Samoa and Tonga. And the population of New Zealand, it's a lot of people from the United Kingdom, well, ancestors from the United Kingdom, and a lot of people, Maori people as well, and also those islands in the north, Fiji, Samoa, Tonga. The people come down and work and live in New Zealand. This little piece of waterway in between the North Island and the South Island is Cook Strait, and that was named after James Cook in 1769, or maybe he named it after himself when he was doing the map of New Zealand. And yeah, because he went around those North and South Island and mapped them, and I'm sure he did a better job than myself. Anything else? I'll put some other big towns in the South Island. Dunedin. And down there is Invercargill. They sound like names from towns in Scotland. And oh yeah, up here is Rotorua. So there's Rotorua up here on the North Island, where they've got a lot of hot springs that I haven't been there, but I think you jump in the hot springs and like a hot bath, maybe rich in mineral salts perhaps. So you can see the names. Names are a mix of English names and also English names like Wellington, Christchurch, Auckland, and also the names of the Maori names like Rotorua and Taranaki. A couple more towns I'll write in before I finish up. Okay, so we've got Hamilton there as another town. So apart from rugby union, then Auckland has a team, a rugby league team that plays against in the Australian rugby league competition. It's called the Warriors, the New Zealand Warriors. That's right. Had a sort of a memory fade about what it was called, the Warriors from New Zealand. And in football, soccer, Wellington has Wellington Phoenix that plays in the Australian A-League football soccer competition. It's a team from Wellington, and both those teams fly regularly over to Australia to play in the competition in a home and away sort of format. Home 1 week and away the next. So I think that's about it for New Zealand. I should tell you that it's quite a prosperous country, New Zealand. There's a good standard of living, similar to Australia, I suppose. They rely a lot on the exports of food and also timber for their for their country. So in summary, then, we've got New Zealand here. A population of 4.8 million, 269,000 square kilometres. It's located in the Pacific Ocean, and the Tasman Sea is between New Zealand and Australia. And South Pacific Ocean, down south is Antarctica, and up north is more of the Polynesian islands, such as Fiji, Tonga and Samoa, and those sort of islands. So that's it. I think that's not a bad summary, hopefully, of New Zealand. So I hope you've enjoyed this video.